These are replicas of the homeland of the Holy Land.
Alright, so this first floor here is called the Memorial Church. The Memorial Church in the four corners has four low altars. This is the first one that we're going to look at. We also have medium altars going in this direction, high altars going in that direction, the main altar in the center, and then even around the corner we have a Blessed Sacrament Chapel if anybody needs that also. But anyway, this altar is dedicated to St. Joseph, the foster father of Jesus and the husband of Mary. There's a nice statue of him in the center where he's holding the child Christ. And Christ is holding a lily flower. That's a symbol of purity. In Joseph's other hand, he has a right angle, and that was a tool of his trade. He was a carpenter, along with Jesus once he grew up. Now, in the left panel, you can see the marriage of Joseph and Mary. It looks like he's basically putting the ring on her finger there. And in this panel, you can see the Holy Family fleeing to Egypt. So shortly after Jesus was born, right after the Magi left, Joseph had a dream. It was a warning from an angel telling him to take his wife and the newborn king and flee to Egypt because King Herod, the king of that land, was sending men to kill Jesus. In fact, King Herod was sending men to kill all of the male children under the age of 2. But anyway, you can see Egypt depicted by the pyramids in the background. Now, in the wooden panel over there, you can see the death of St. Joseph. So, Joseph is not mentioned in the parts of the gospel where Jesus is a full adult performing his mission here on earth. So, it's assumed that he passed away before that time period. But in the panel there, you can see Joseph. He looks rather old on the bed. His wife Mary is at the head. She looks to be in prayer. And then standing over them is basically an adult full-grown Jesus. St. Joseph is the patron saint of workers. He is also the patron saint of a happy death. Okay? Right. So I start with the St. Joseph's altar. I think because that's what I'm working on. The next three things I'm going to talk about are the main attraction of the church. That is the crucifixion scene at the top of the stairs. This, which is our replica tour. We would definitely not all fit. It's pretty tight. There are two rooms. The first room is the antechamber. It's called the Room of the Angels. That's where an angel met Mary Magdalene on Easter morning to tell her that the tomb was empty and the Lord had risen. There's that white pedestal there with a stone embedded into it. When you get close, you'll see the words ex Jerusalem engraved into it, Latin for from Jerusalem. That stone really is from the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And then the next room is the tomb. And in order to go into there, you have to humble yourself a little bit. The entryway is like pretty low, so you have to bow down and walk in. And when you go in there, you're going to see something that looks like a marble sarcophagus. As if you remove the top stone, you would find an Egyptian mummy. But that's not the story of Jesus at all, of course. Really, the marble that's in there is protecting the ledge that was carved into the original cave. So that ledge had the body of Jesus on it. It's called the Holy Bed. When Christians took over the church, they wanted to protect the Holy Bed, so they had it encased into marble. And that's what you see when you go back there. Also, the top marble slab has a crack through the center. That's part of the reproduction. The real one has it, so it was included here. And if you want to see what the Holy Bed looks like, the real Holy Bed, you can. So back in 2017, they had to open it up, and they had to open up that church because of significant water damage that was occurring. And when they did, they invited National Geographic to come. And Nat Geo came and documented the whole thing, pictures and video. There's actually a really nice documentary called Opening the Tomb of Christ. And I think I saw it on the Disney Plus app. But anyway, if you want to know what the Holy Bed looks like, nowadays all you have to do is Google it. All right? Anyway, right this way. Sir.
What's the significance of Jesus standing with his left leg behind?
I don't know if the pose has any significance, but that's supposed to, I think, to show him resurrected. So this is the second of the four low altars, and this one is dedicated to St. Francis, who's clearly a very important person for the Franciscans. And I think outside of the biblical time period, he's probably one of the most popular saints. One of the reasons why he's still so well loved today is that he's known as a great peacemaker. He's also the patron saint of animals, nature, and ecology. It's on his feast day, October 4th, that people get to bring their pets to church for the annual blessing of the animals. So he's still very popular today. Now, during his own lifetime, he was more well known for working with the sick, working with the poor, or people with leprosy, that sort of thing. Now, he comes from Assisi, Italy, and Assisi is a medium-sized city, about 90 miles away from Rome, 90 miles to the northeast. It's a medium-sized city, even during his lifetime, but he came from one of the wealthiest families. His father was a silk merchant and had traveled all around Europe. His mother was a French noblewoman, and his father loved France and all things French, which was kind of the cultural center of Europe at the time. So Francis is actually named after the country of France, even though he's Italian. Anyway, so growing up the way that he did, he was very comfortable, very privileged in life, and his dream was to become something like a medieval knight. You know, he wanted to go to war and win glory and honor in battle. He did get his chance when he was about 18 or 19 years old. His town, Assisi, went to war with their neighbor, Perugia, and Perugia was much larger. They were kind of destined to win. It's said that St. Francis fought bravely, but he was taken prisoner early in on that war. And then he spent the next year in a prisoner of war camp, a medieval prisoner of war camp, so really, really bad conditions. The Perusians knew that he was wealthy from the way that he was dressed, and they were trying to get the most amount of ransom money from his family. It was paid and he was released, but that experience did greatly change him. We don't quite know when he began to seek the spiritual side of life, but it was definitely after he was released from that POW camp that he began to lean more into the spiritual side of things. So during his recovery phase, while he was healing after that whole experience, he would spend hours in local churches around his hometown in prayer and meditation, and just, resting and healing. In one of those churches called the San Damiano, he had his great religious epiphany. He was meditating in front of a crucifix when he heard the voice of God speak to him, and the voice said, "Francis, rebuild my church, which as you can see has fallen into disrepair." Now at first, St. Francis took those words literal. He thought that God actually wanted him to fix the churches around his hometown, and to fix them with hammer, nail, stone, and cement. It took St. Francis some time before he realized that God was actually calling him to a higher mission. Now in these two panels, you're seeing him late in his life. And he passed away at like the ripe old age of 44, 45. Middle ages were hard living.